When the news broke that Jungkook had turned down a fashion deal worth over $100 million, the industry froze. For a moment, it was as if the global fashion stage lost its balance. Everyone from executives in New York to creative directors in Paris was asking the same question: why would anyone say no to that kind of money? But this wasn't just anyone. This was Jungkook, the man whose presence can elevate an entire brand overnight, the artist who has become more than a pop icon, and the only star capable of shaking the fashion world not by signing a deal, but by rejecting one. His decision wasn't about money, because Jungkook has long surpassed the point where financial gain defines his choices. What the world saw as a refusal of a fortune was actually an assertion of identity, a statement that no amount of money could buy authenticity. In a world where fame is often traded for sponsorship, Jungkook's no was louder than any campaign slogan. It was the sound of a man choosing control over convenience, artistry over influence, and meaning over material. The reaction from the industry was immediate. Fashion houses that had once competed to outbid each other for Jungkook's face suddenly had to face a new reality. He couldn't be owned. He couldn't be shaped by a brand's image or reduced to a marketing tool. Jungkook had become the brand. And that's where the shock truly came from. Not the money he turned down, but the message that followed. It was a reminder that in an era dominated by contracts, Jungkook is still the one who decides when and how the world gets to see him. For years, luxury labels have relied on celebrity power to drive cultural relevance. Collaborations have become the fastest way to sell an image, and no one has played this game better than Jungkook. His campaigns with Calvin Klein didn't just sell jeans, they sold confidence, authenticity, and a new standard of modern masculinity. But Jungkook's power wasn't born from the brands he wore, it came from the way he made those brands feel human. When he wore Calvin Klein, people didn't see a model wearing clothes, they saw Jungkook redefining what cool actually meant. So, when he turned down a $100 million offer, it wasn't a rejection of fashion, it was a challenge to the system. He reminded everyone that true influence doesn't need to be bought, because real cultural power comes from connection, not contracts. The decision revealed something rare. Jungkook is not interested in being a puppet of luxury. He's interested in being a mirror for authenticity, even if that means walking away from a deal most people could never imagine refusing. What makes this moment so powerful is how quiet it was. There was no grand announcement, no controversy, no outburst, just an unspoken no that traveled faster than any press release. It was restraint turned into rebellion, a masterclass in silent dominance. While other stars chase endorsements to secure their legacy, Jungkook secures his by choosing his moments with surgical precision. He knows his worth, and that worth is not defined by digits, but by direction. Behind the scenes, industry insiders whispered about how rare this move was. For years, the fashion world has operated on a simple equation: fame equals influence, and influence equals money. But Jungkook has always rewritten formulas. His value doesn't come from scarcity, it comes from selectivity. Every time he steps away, demand for him grows stronger. His absence becomes louder than any campaign could ever be. That's why his no wasn't a loss, it was leverage. The kind of leverage only true cultural figures possess. Many assumed this decision would damage his relationship with luxury houses. Instead, the opposite happened. Respect deepened. Designers and executives began to see what fans already knew. Jungkook's power comes from control. He knows when to appear, when to vanish, and when to let curiosity build. That control turns him from a brand ambassador into something far greater, a symbol of integrity in a world drowning in deals. It's why his refusal didn't close doors. It opened new ones, ones that lead to creative freedom, not corporate control. The timing of his decision also carried weight. As fashion continues to merge with pop culture, the pressure on artists to commercialize their image has never been higher. Many celebrities sign deals not because they align with a brand's message, but because they can't afford not to. But Jungkook operates from a position of self-sufficiency. His art sustains his fame, his choices sustain his identity. That's what makes his refusal so monumental. It wasn't just a financial decision, it was a philosophical one. He proved that in a world obsessed with image, real power is saying no when everyone expects you to say yes. His fans, of course, understood instantly. They've seen the way Jungkook approaches everything: music, performance, fashion, with precision and depth. He doesn't move for headlines, he moves for meaning. Whether he's performing in front of millions or walking through an airport, there's a deliberateness to his presence. Every gesture feels intentional, every silence strategic. That's why his rejection of a $100 million deal didn't come across as arrogance, it came across as authenticity. It showed that his relationship with his image isn't transactional, it's personal. What's remarkable is how this decision reshaped the conversation about celebrity independence. For years, stars have been told that success means expansion, more deals, more exposure, more everything. But Jungkook's no introduced a new version of success. Restraint. The power to stop, to decline, to protect one's narrative. It's a move that few in the entertainment world are brave enough to make. And it's why Jungkook's influence now extends far beyond music or fashion. It reaches into the very idea of control in the modern age of fame. This wasn't the first time Jungkook redefined what it means to be a global figure. His collaboration with Calvin Klein already broke boundaries. He didn't just represent the brand, he revived it. Search data, sales figures, and cultural relevance all pointed to one fact: Jungkook had become Calvin Klein's heartbeat. But instead of riding that success into an endless cycle of contracts, he stepped back. That restraint became his signature. He doesn't chase moments, he creates them. And that's why fashion insiders are still talking about this decision months later. Because it wasn't just about a number, it was about a message. Jungkook's decision drew a line between visibility and vulnerability. He made it clear that he will never let fame consume what makes him real. He would rather protect his creative voice than amplify someone else's brand, and that's what makes him untouchable. The brands that understand that will wait for him, because they know aligning with Jungkook isn't about profit, it's about permanence. He's not trying to dominate fashion, he's redefining how influence functions within it. Before Jungkook, celebrity endorsement was a transaction. After Jungkook, it's a partnership if you're lucky. He doesn't lend his face to a brand, he lends it purpose. His influence turns ads into art and campaigns into conversations. That's why his silence after turning down the $100 million deal spoke louder than any press tour could. It wasn't a withdrawal, it was a declaration. Authenticity has no price tag. Even now, as the fashion world tries to interpret his decision, the answer remains simple. Jungkook didn't refuse money, he refused limits. Because when you're operating on the level he is, every decision becomes part of your legacy. And his legacy isn't built on wealth, it's built on wisdom. That's what separates Jungkook from everyone else. He's not chasing the crown, he's reshaping what it means to wear one. It's not hard to understand why. Jungkook represents what the fashion world has been missing: substance. For years, luxury campaigns have chased attention, sacrificing depth for visibility. But Jungkook operates on a different wavelength. His presence is calm yet commanding. His decisions are deliberate, not reactive. That's why his every move feels larger than life. Turning down $100 million was not an act of rebellion, it was an act of refinement. He made the statement that authenticity isn't for sale, and that message hit harder than any commercial could. The deeper truth behind this moment is that Jungkook is rewriting the rules of fame. In an era where most celebrities overexpose themselves, he understands the power of mystery. He knows that scarcity amplifies desire. Every time he pulls away, curiosity surges. Every time he appears, the world stops. That level of control is what every brand dreams of, but only Jungkook can achieve it naturally. So when he declined the deal, he wasn't rejecting the brand, he was preserving his rhythm, his timing, his story. And in doing so, he protected something more valuable than money, his aura. That aura has always been what sets him apart. It's what makes a single photo of him at an airport trend globally within minutes. It's what turns a simple outfit into a viral moment. People don't follow Jungkook because he's a celebrity, they follow him because he feels real in a world full of replicas. And that's the essence of his impact on fashion. He doesn't sell aspiration, he sells authenticity. He doesn't create demand through marketing, he creates it through meaning. That's why the $100 million offer failed, because no brand can manufacture what Jungkook naturally embodies. What makes this even more fascinating is the timing. The fashion industry is at a crossroads. With consumer trust declining and brand loyalty becoming fragile, companies have turned to celebrity partnerships as lifelines. But Jungkook's move exposed how dependent they've become on borrowed credibility. He showed that real power doesn't come from brand alignment, it comes from brand identity. His identity, refined through years of global recognition, is too strong to be shaped by corporate agendas. And that's exactly why his no sent shockwaves through boardrooms across Paris, Milan, and New York. It wasn't defiance, it was dominance. His decision also revealed something the fashion world doesn't like to admit. Not every global star is equal. Many chase deals to stay relevant. Jungkook doesn't need to. He's built a career that feeds itself. His music, his artistry, his image, they all sustain one another in perfect balance. That's what makes his independence so powerful. He's not relying on fashion to define him. Fashion relies on him to stay current. He's become the reference point for modern influence. When Jungkook wears something, it's instantly elevated not because of a contract, but because of conviction. This power dynamic terrifies and inspires the fashion world at the same time. They admire his integrity, but fear what it represents. Because if more artists followed Jungkook's example, the industry would lose its strongest leverage: control through money. Jungkook's move exposed the illusion that money guarantees influence. It doesn't. Influence is born from credibility, and credibility cannot be bought. By turning down the deal, he turned authenticity into a currency far more valuable than any financial figure. That's the kind of shift that doesn't just affect one brand, it changes the ecosystem. The emotional impact of this choice also can't be ignored. Fans didn't see a lost opportunity, they saw liberation. They understood that Jungkook wasn't rejecting success, he was redefining it. To them, it wasn't about numbers, it was about meaning. They saw in him what they rarely see in stardom anymore: conviction. That's why his fanbase doesn't just support him, they protect him. Because they understand that every decision he makes is driven by intention, not impulse. They've witnessed how he builds his legacy slowly, carefully, with a level of thought that most stars abandon once they reach his level. There's also something profoundly human about his choice. In a world obsessed with more fame, more money, more attention, Jungkook chose enough. And that word enough is revolutionary. It says he knows who he is, what he stands for, and what he doesn't need to prove. It's the kind of decision that only someone truly fulfilled can make. You can't say no to $100 million unless your purpose is stronger than your price. Jungkook's purpose clearly is. That's what the world saw. A man who has already achieved everything, yet still protects what can't be bought, his peace, his integrity, his freedom. That's also why the story didn't fade away. Most celebrity headlines disappear after a few days, but this one lingered, because deep down, people know it symbolizes something larger than money. It symbolizes values. Jungkook reminded the world that not every victory has to be loud, and not every success has to be public. Sometimes the greatest statement is silence, and the greatest strength is restraint. That's the paradox of Jungkook's power. He dominates without demanding, influences without insisting, and leads without needing to shout. Even among industry veterans, this moment will be studied for years. His decision represents the evolution of celebrity influence from transactional to transformational. Before Jungkook, brand partnerships were about reach. After Jungkook, they're about resonance. The game has changed, and every executive knows that chasing the next Jungkook effect will never work unless it's earned. Because what makes him magnetic isn't his fame, it's his freedom. And that freedom now defines an entire generation of artists. Younger performers look up to Jungkook not just for his talent, but for his discipline. He's showing them that you can be globally adored without surrendering your autonomy. That you can stand beside luxury, not beneath it. His choices prove that success isn't about who offers the most, it's about who aligns with your vision. That's why his name carries a weight that goes beyond pop culture. Jungkook has become a symbol for the modern artist, one who refuses to be shaped by anything but his own values. For the fashion world, this is both a challenge and an opportunity. Brands that still view celebrities as tools for exposure will struggle to keep up. But those who understand Jungkook's message authenticity first, control always will thrive. Because the future of fashion isn't about mass appeal, it's about meaningful connection. Jungkook has shown that power doesn't lie in how many contracts you sign, but in how many you can afford to refuse. That's why, even now, people keep talking about his no as if it were a global event, because it was. It wasn't just a business decision, it was a cultural reset. It reminded everyone watching that in a world addicted to validation, saying no can be the most powerful yes you ever give yourself. And in doing so, Jungkook didn't just shake the fashion world, he changed what it means to own your identity in the spotlight.